You're watching Notepad, and I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. It's approaching the time where we have to talk a little bit more about education. Summer is just around the corner, and perhaps even parents are thinking about plans to send their kids overseas for tertiary education and beyond. Joining me this afternoon is an interesting individual called Jonathan Lau. He is the co-founder of German Educare. Because one thing that you don't normally associate with education in Malaysia is, of course, German education. So Jonathan is perhaps the best individual to talk about this and more. Jonathan, thanks again for taking time to speak with us. Let's talk a little bit about German Educare. What is it about?
Thanks for having me, Ibrahim Sani. So German Educare, we started this company really because we want to expose more students to the options of studying in Germany. The company is started by graduates. So we have been through the education, we know what it's like to study there, we know what it's like to actually live there, and we have enjoyed our time there. We see an opportunity. We think it's a great opportunity for more students to pursue this pathway, and that's why what we are really doing is to raise the awareness so that people can have more options, they can make informed decisions about what their career paths are going to be like.
The consideration when parents think about furthering their studies for the children. And of course, it's becoming more increasingly fashionable these days for children to self-fund their tertiary education themselves, is on the selection of the familiarity of the universities that they are applying to. And while not many can make it to the cut of, say, for instance, the Ivy League schools, applying for universities where it's more recognizable and more familiar with Malaysian employers' ears, and sometimes even foreign entities, might seem to be the easiest choice for people to make. What then would be some of the key challenges of, say, German universities in trying to market themselves to non-German speaking countries like Malaysia?
Yeah, I think from our experience, the biggest challenge is it is so ingrained in us to select only countries that are English speaking generally, right? So all Malaysian kids grow up, they have this aim of studying in the Australia, in the UK, New Zealand and such examples.
And US, yeah.
And US, exactly. So where Germany is concerned, it is not yet a popular choice, but thankfully, their economy and their industrial is actually quite recognized. So take cars, for example, we have Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Porsche, these are all German companies. And that is what makes people interested. When we say, okay, look, this is a country that have produced such great brands. This is the country that has, is world recognized in engineering and sciences, for example. Why not study there? Because they must be doing something right.
One of the biggest hurdles, of course, language. How do you overcome that when you were studying there?
There's only one way, is just to practice more.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it hard learning German?
It is very tough. So I'll be honest, it's very tough. It is very different to the languages that we know. English, Malay, even Chinese do not have the same complexity when it comes to learning the grammar rules that German has. What is actually beneficial for Malaysian students is that because we know Malay, the way German words are pronounced is actually very similar to the way Malay words are pronounced.
It's phonetic.
Phonetic, exactly.
Yeah.
So the Germans actually can understand us very well compared to other international students.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So how long did it take you to learn German?
It took me slightly more than, it's close to 2 years for me to master the language.
Is that slow or fast for an average user?
That is, I would say, quite fast already, because it's not easy to learn a language and master it from scratch. You see, I've been learning English, my whole life, but I can't say that I'm very fluent in English. But when you are studying in German, at least for me, I did my entire studies in German. So if my language is not at the level where it's required, I would struggle in my studies.
Yeah, okay. So would you say that, say, your German is near your English or something like that? Or it's like really proficiency level that is quite far behind?
For students to study there, we need to actually sit for an exam. And our German has to be at the advanced level. So we must be very proficient in reading, writing, even speaking, before we get a pass and get to study in Germany.
Okay, let's talk about the comparison with France, because France is also trying to push forward their French universities.
Yes.
And it's also as foreign to Malaysians as it is to German universities as well.
Correct.
I would imagine that there would be some challenges that would be similar between trying to pick between these two, I guess, countries. Do you think that there is a competition, at least in terms of promoting tertiary education, between Germany and France?
Yeah, so similar first. France and Germany, they are both the powerhouses in Europe, right?
The
so
only
in
two powerhouses now that our friend has left. You know?
Yeah, correct. So I would say actually education in France is great, right? And the challenges that they have in promoting the universities is similar to Germany. Students will need to learn French if they want to study there and they want to be comfortable speaking to the people in France. Germany is the same. But from my experience, and also from what I know, there are many German companies that are all around the world, and especially in Malaysia, we have quite a few of them. So it's actually advantageous that you learn this language. Your option will be to stay on, or even if you come back, you have this advantage when you work for German companies.
Okay, let's talk about the cost then, because applying for tertiary university has always been a cost consideration for many parents to plan.
Right.
And normally, even if it is expensive and pricey, parents tend to have planned this over 10 years, over 15 years. It's not a surprise in terms of the cost and living expenses. What would be some of the cost considerations when we talk about studying in Germany?
Right. So we're talking about education. I will split it into two different costs. One is the tuition fee and one is the living expenses. Okay, the good news is tuition is free in Germany. So even as Malaysians, you study in Germany, your bachelor's degree, you don't actually pay a tuition fee. Okay, as for the cost of living, it is actually quite reasonable, between 800 euros to 1,000 euros, depending on the city you're studying. So 800 euros,
That's about 4,000
4,000 plus ringgit.
Right, per month.
Per month.
To when you say how much was it? 800 to how many euros?
1,000.
1,000. So we're looking at 4 to 5K a month, something
Yes,
like
exactly,
that.
yes.
Is that expensive? Is that cheap when you compare, say, I don't know, studies in the UK, US, whatever?
I say it is not more expensive than the countries that we are used to studying to go, right? So it's not more expensive than the UK or the US. Remember, the total cost is a combination of the tuition fee and the living expenses, and you're saving a chunk of your tuition fee. So the living expenses, I think, is okay. In fact, if you take this cost in comparison, it will cost the same if you study in a private university in Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some of your experiences. So where did you study? What did you study?
Yeah, I studied mechatronics engineering at the Hebron University. It's actually a very small city, about 40 minutes from Stuttgart.
Okay.
Yes.
How did you stumble upon this particular institution of higher learning? Were you targeting this when you were like even a small kid, or?
Right. Yeah. To be honest, I did not. I know I wanted to.
I'd be surprised if you did.
Yeah, I wanted to do engineering,
Yeah.
and I was thinking more like US, but I was offered a scholarship to study in Germany, and I think, hey, I did some research, and Germany turns out to be actually quite attractive, and I just took the plunge. I accepted the scholarship. I learned German, and that's how I ended up in Hebron.
Were the industrial training placement or internship made available to you then in Germany?
Yes, actually that is a core component of the German education. A lot of their focus is on industrial training. So if we talk about the education landscape in Germany, to achieve your career, there are two different pathways. One is to go to university, and one is to do your apprenticeship. Right, and
something
even
like a vocational thing.
It's a vocational studies.
All right.
And even the university pathway, there are three different groups of university. There is the university is where you have a lot of focus on theory. There's University of Applied Sciences, which again have a strong focus on training. And then we have the Arts and Music School, of course.
Okay, so what plan did you path for yourself?
So I went to a University of Applied Sciences. So prior to even entering the university, I have to do industrial training. And during the university, I have to also attend a total of 1 year of industrial training.
Oh, wow,
yes.
1 year.
Yes, I was attached to two different companies.
Okay, so let's talk about the pathway, right? So your O levels, what was it? SPM, something else?
I did SPM, yeah.
So after SPM, what's the journey like?
So after SPM, I have to finish my pre-U first.
Here in Malaysia?
Here in Malaysia, I did that in Malaysia. Parallel to pre-U, I'm learning German at the same time.
Okay, what pre-U is that? German pre-U?
I did A-levels. So Germany recognizes quite a few pre-Us. They even recognize STPM. They also recognize A-level, and A-level is the pathway which I took.
Okay.
Right. But it's more than just that. It's not like any students who did A-levels qualify to study in Germany. They look at things like subjects combination. They look at things as a result as well. So if you have the if you did A-levels but you do not have the right subjects, you might not be able to study what you want to study.
Okay.
So that's actually very important, and that's why the awareness that I'm doing, we have to reach out to students that are as early as secondary schools, so that when they were deciding which pre-U to do, what are the subjects they're going to take, they have to know by then.
How easy or how difficult was it for you to study Germany here in Malaysia? I can't imagine them being a lot of German tutors.
It takes a lot of discipline to study German in Malaysia because the environment is not so conducive, right? You study in class, but outside class, you do not have the opportunity to practice the language. Yeah. So for my case, I know I want to study in Germany. I have no choice. I have to pick up the language. So that's the discipline part. What we do for our students right now is we split. We have 6 months program where they start to learn the German in Malaysia, so they are comfortable, and then they will then follow up with another 6 months in Germany. And that is from our experience, because the 6 months in Germany is where their language really progress. You are in an environment where not just you learn German in class. Outside of class, you will practice the language in real situations, in the supermarket, in train stations. You talk to other international students. Yeah.
That has to be the way, quite honestly.
That has to be the way, yes.
So would you say that the 6 months there versus the 6 months here, for you, in your case, is actually beneficial being there?
Yeah, definitely. If you spend even longer time in Germany just to learn the language, of course, that's ideal. But then the cost, of course, will be slightly higher. The living expenses is a bit expensive in Germany.
Okay. Something that is interesting to note is, of course, the free education there, free tertiary education there. Normally, countries would accord low to free education for their citizens or some form of scholarship, not so much international students. Why is Germany moving ahead with this plan in terms of providing free education for international students, like yourself?
Correct. Germany has always been providing free education. There might be some states that at some point charge a fee to international students. In fact, right now there's a state called Baden-Württemberg. They charge a minimum fee for Malaysians or international students.
So when you say minimum fee, like
they charge 1,500 euros per semester. So a year having 2 semesters, 3,000 euros or 15,000 ringgit thereabouts, right? But the Germans believe that education should be made available.
It's a human right.
Yes, that's a human right.
But only if you qualify.
Yes, correct, of course. So you need to have the right qualification. If you're a good talent, they want to retain you.
And it's not the deprivation of education, it's just the deprivation of education that you particularly want. For instance, tertiary education, but primary and secondary education is still human rights, even if you're not qualified for it.
Yes.
Okay, so because of that, they really value that and they want to export this.
Correct. I mean, they have all interest to even retain talent. If you graduated, for example, I can actually apply for a job-seeking visa, stay on for the 18 months to search for a job. Usually you don't need that much time,
So why did you come back?
For
Irresistible nasi lemak, is that it?
So for my case, because I have to serve bond, I was under scholarship. But speaking about nasi lemak, so from my friends, those that can stay on, some of them stay on, they get used to the lifestyle, they like the lifestyle, and some of them don't quite like the lifestyle, and then they come back.
Okay.
Yeah. So it really, there are various reasons, right? Some is because of family and so on.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the reason may be,
whatever
it's 1,001 issues. Yeah.
But I've always advised my students, at least, if you take the effort to study German, and if you studied there, do not immediately come back to Malaysia. Get working experience there, because the work experience in Germany is different than work experience you can find in Malaysia.
How different? Why is it different?
There's so many more tech companies. That's where they're really strong in technical. So engineering firms especially, and they do a lot of R&D. So for example, even as an intern, I was doing a research on robotics, right? But one day they just pulled me aside. Do you want to experience, a safety system in the car? So I said, yeah, why not?
So this is at a point where you don't know what you don't know. Somebody just offered you.
Correct. So you just explore, what experience they are.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, during that one experience, they were going to test a safety system where the car can brake in time, even if the road is slippery, for example. So there's this stunt guy, there's the ambulance and the fire, the bomba guys at the side. So it's very dramatic. He sped the car, it was very fast, and then he braked, and the car just went out of control. And that's okay, this is what happens if there's no safety system, and then what if there's a safety system? He did the same stunt again, and the car just is stable, right?
Yeah.
So at least we now appreciate what we do. The research that we put into the technology, we actually get to see, we experience it. Of course, people on the road, they won't do that to their own car experience.
Yeah, of course. But the idea here is that you're learning applied science. This is literally applied,
Yes.
applying the science that you put in.
Yes.
And you see, a few years ago, I was in Sweden and I was trying to understand the model there as well. In Sweden, they were doing what they call the triple helix model, where companies, private institutions, as well as universities, are trying to put together things that the industry needs. That means that if the university wants to train people, they will have to ask the government as well as the university what kind of shortages are needed. And for companies, they don't have to think so much about R&D because the university is doing the research already. Just fund them, give them grants, and the government just makes sure that all the shortages and manages the supply and demand side. It's a perfect, I wouldn't say it's a way of them trying to create solutions for existing problems. There's not, mad scientist issue. Do you think that this is something that is being applied in Germany as well, where there is some form of bipartisan parties working together in trying to solve a problem?
Definitely. The universities in Germany work very closely with the industry. In fact, you see many of the industries giving projects, outsourcing projects to the universities to research on. So I think that's actually quite similar in that sense. And I think it actually works.
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, you're trying to solve a problem that is actually there.
Correct, exactly.
Okay, we'll take a short break before we continue our conversation with Jonathan Lau of German Educare. Thanks for staying on with us. You are watching Notepad. We are with Jonathan Lau, the co-founder of German Educare. Jonathan is, of course, promoting the education in Germany to Malaysians. Let's talk about German Educare per se. So here's a student going through the paces of SPM or even IGCSE. What would be this individual's thinking process in trying to put him or herself into a German education system? And how does German Educare fit into this planning?
So we don't really push the program onto the students. What we actually advise our students to do is to really figure out what they actually want to study. And students at their age...
That's a tough question, brother.
Exactly. They do not know what they want to study.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And it's fair, right? At that age, you don't have that much of an idea what's being available, right? But that's important. Like I mentioned, if you want to study a particular course, you need to have the right subjects combination. Knowing the right PRIU to sit is not good enough. So they need to take the time to figure that out. They still have some leeway. They still have some time to think, but they need to start thinking. And that's a key point.
Does German Educare give that kind of solution or consultation, the mix of education combination that is best suited for what they need to be later on in life?
Correct. So there's two things. One is we advise them, right? And how we advise them is like this. Something that you want to study should be a combination of something you're interested in, you're good at, and has potential for a good career. So this is the advice. The second is, the good thing is all the courses that's offered in Germany is actually compiled into a database, and this database is accessible by anyone. So we tell our students, why don't you log on, enter this database, and look at all the courses that's being offered. It might give you an idea what you might like.
All right. And so far, how many students have you helped? Or it's still a startup, right? I mean,
yes. So we started in 2017.
Oh, it's not much of a startup, so it's been a 2-year kind of thing. 3 years now.
We're quite new because, when we first started, a lot of people did not even know about this pathway. So a lot of awareness that we do in the start, we started with only 4 students. Till today, over 100, close to 150 students have enrolled to us. Yeah.
Okay, and what are the success stories? I'm pretty sure they're still going through the. Sorry,
it's
a 4-year program, right?
Yes.
Just like a English-speaking country. The bachelor's is 4 years program.
The bachelor's in Germany is between 3 to 3.5 years.
Oh, 3 and 3. Oh,
correct.
Oh, because they cover a lot in industrial training. Is that it?
Yes. So
okay.
And our preparation program is 1 year. So none of our students have graduated from university yet.
Okay.
Yes.
And are you in touch with them, or it's like it's part of just funneling them through university and then there's no more contact with these kind of
so it's the other way around. So we have a team in Malaysia that helps them make this decision to start their journey. But we have another team in Germany that actually helps them while they're there. So they help with, for example, the cultural changes, or how do you get about in opening a bank account and so on. How do you select university? They go through this thing again with them. And the follow-up with them, with the students, and the catch-up with students is done by my team in Germany as well. So this team, where some of them are Malaysian, so they understand the students' need. They themselves went through this whole pathway themselves. Yeah.
From the, I guess, cohort that you have been through with other Malaysian students that has undergone through the same program, you yourself included, and you present yourself a CV with the university, with a German university on it, and you give it to an employer, what kind of conversations do you get from that? Like, oh, okay. Like, how would they react?
I would say in the industry themselves, they are pretty interested. So for me, I had quite a few job offers when I applied. So I think in industry, they know that German education is really good. They maybe in some form have done business with, or is in a partnership with a German company, so they know.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that sense, having a German qualification is not a minus point. In fact, if anything, it's a plus point.
All right. Yeah. Final words before we part. Any ideas what to share with students actually watching the show, or parents actually, more likely?
Again, the same advice I gave to all my students. You need to be informed. So first figure out what you want to study, then figure out what are the different pathways, and then you can make a good decision as to where you should really be going, whether it's locally or overseas, whether it's Germany, outside Germany, other European countries, for example.
What you're asking them is actually very hard. I mean, asking them to study something hard that they can do, asking them what they want, that's...
Yes.
I have a 13-year-old, okay? She wants to be something different every day. And she's 13, so she's going to go through the same
No, there's
process.
no shortcut to this. But speaking with people, speaking with more people that can give them good advice, that's key.
Okay, cool. That was my conversation with Jonathan Lau, the co-founder of German Educare. If you've missed any part of this interview, just head on to AstroAWANI.com, look for Notepad there. This is a one-of-a-kind interview, actually, Jonathan. I mean, I normally interview CEOs and stuff like that, but talking about German education is something quite interesting. So yes, interviews such as this can be found on our website. Just look for Notepad over there. You can also watch this interview and interviews such as this on your mobile devices. Just download the Astro AWANI app wherever you get the application. Till then, thanks very much for watching and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.